What's up, y'all? I just felt the need to talk about something that's really important because here lately, I feel like I'm not the only one that's been going through a lot of just crazy stuff, a lot of unexpected stuff that seems like coincidences, all of this stuff that we can't explain, but it's definitely happening. And I just felt the need to kind of go into depth about the times that we're in and the reality of what we're dealing with instead of, us just being used to just disregarding stuff, dismissing it, writing it off like, well, it's just life, or it's just, science says it's just karma or deja vu, all of these things that explain away what we're dealing with, but never really tackles the issue or the root of it.
Of the guys who talks about this is Elon, who says things like this: when you do this, beware. Because you think, just like the guy in the stories, that when you do this, you're going to put that little guy in a pentagram, and you're going to have your holy water out, and you're going to wave it at the thing, and by God, it's going to do exactly what you say and not one thing more, but it never works out that way. So this is an attitude that some are having, this emerging alarmism about the way this is going to go. But these words, demons, doesn't capture the essence of what's happening here. I don't know if any of you are turn-of-the-century weird fiction fans, but there's this guy named H.P. Lovecraft, who's a very famous American weird fiction author. And he espoused a view which is called cosmicism. And the essence of cosmicism is cosmic indifference. So what he was saying is basically, yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want. So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. This thing is happening in the background while people bicker about politics and what's going to be in the healthcare plan in the US. And underneath it all is this rising tsunami that, if we're not careful, is going to wipe us all out.
I'm a little worried about the AI stuff. I think it's something, I don't know, which we should be concerned about. I don't know, I think we should need some kind of like regulatory authority or something that's overseeing AI development and just making sure that it's operating within the public interest. And, it's quite a dangerous technology. And I fear I may have done some things to accelerate it, which is, I don't know. So, some of the AI stuff I think is just obviously useful, like what we're doing with self-driving.
If you assume any rate of advancement in AI, we will be left behind by a lot. Even the benign situation, if you have ultra-intelligent AI, we would be so far below them in intelligence that it would be like, a pet, basically.
Cat, that's what I was
like
thinking.
A pet.
Like
a cat. It would be like a house cat. Yeah, it would be like the house cat.
Right.
It's not the end of the world.
Just tying together how all of this stuff relates to life and God and the reality of his existence and his son that died for our sins, all of that. Science, as some of us may know, they've been playing and dibbling and dabbling in different dimensions and parallel universes, and they make it sound like, oh, it's so fun. I saw a TED Talk where this bright scientist guy was talking about how they're making computers and artificial intelligence that can explore these other universes and take resources and bring them back, and all of this stuff that just sounds like, so y'all playing with demons. Like, y'all try to make it sound like scientific, but really y'all playing with some spirits, and y'all don't believe in God. And there is no in between. Like, when it comes to the spiritual realm, you either are rooted in God of all creation, or you rebelled against God. That's what the aspect of the spiritual realm is all about. So any spirits, any type of, that's why, like, witchcraft and believing in crystals, putting your faith and your hope in other things to bring you like manifestations in the physical realm. That's why it's not a good thing, because we were created to depend on God. We were created to build a relationship with God. And the only thing that the enemy offers is counterfeits to make us think like, oh, well, I don't have to go to God. I don't have to listen to rules. I don't have to do all this, when really the rules aren't even like really rules. Like, they're like parameters to protect us, because we don't understand the spiritual realm like we think we do. We don't understand everything like we think. So something I just wanted to read really quick to even like confirm the different dimensions that science is talking about, opening, CERN opening different portals, harvesting dark matter. Like, why aren't they harvesting light particles? Why are they harvesting dark particles? All of this stuff that like really don't make sense when you really can see, like what's going on. And everybody just kind of dismisses it, like, that's just some scientific stuff, whatever, it don't matter. But in the book of John, chapter 13, verses 30, Jesus is talking to the disciples, and he says, hereafter I will not talk much with you, for the prince of this world cometh and hath nothing in me. So he's basically saying, like, this is before he went to die on the cross for our sins. He was saying, like, after I'm gonna be up out of here, it's gonna get crazy, but don't trip, don't be scared, don't be sad, don't be afraid, because the enemy has no power over me. I'm going to die so that I have power over death. That's the only thing, even though people say they don't fear death, that's one of the only things that we really can fear, because it's finite. It's like the end of everything, so that's why the only true hope of life after this life is Jesus. Not any other religion offers solidified, guaranteed hope. No other deity gave up their life for us.
There are an enormous number, mind-bogglingly large number, of parallel realities, as real as this one, that have different consistent histories. So imagine a world where all of the laws of physics as we know them are obeyed, but different decisions were made along the way. Different decisions at the level of tiny microscopic particles, different decisions all the way up to what you chose to eat for lunch, and whether you chose to come to this session or not. Quantum mechanics makes a very specific prediction that all of those are as real as the thing that you remember. And this is bizarre, because we don't see those other things. But science has reached the point now where we can build machines that exploit those other worlds. And quantum computers are perhaps the most exciting of all of these that we have within, or almost within, our grasp right now. So people from a physics background love this. They want to understand the world. They want to understand the universe, how it all works. There's another type of person who tends to come from the computer science side that's like, yeah, okay, that's all great. But there's a different thing going on here, which is just as exciting, if not more, and that these machines that supposedly can do this wild stuff, let's forget about how they work, if you could build one, could solve problems that you could never. He's on the board of SpaceX, Tesla, Synthetic Genomics, which is Craig Venter's company, is trying to build artificial life, and D-Wave, and that's it. And this is his particularly poetic way of framing the difference between the machines we build and conventional computers. This is what they look like. There are two of them. These are from our lab in Burnaby in British Columbia. From the outside, they look like giant black monoliths, big metal boxes, about 10 feet on a side, 12 feet tall. And they are powered, they have a fridge inside them, a refrigerator that cools these chips to almost absolute zero. Just a wisp, a fraction of a degree above absolute zero. Hundreds of times colder than interstellar space. Amongst the coldest and most isolated and extreme conditions that humans have ever been able to engineer. These fridges, interestingly enough, which are called pulse tube dilution refrigerators, have a thing called a pulse tube, which emits a sound roughly once per second, which sounds eerily like a heartbeat. So if you have the opportunity to stand next to one of these machines, it is an awe-inspiring thing, at least for me. It feels like an altar to an alien god. They really are impressive machines. At the heart of this big box is a tiny chip about the size of your thumbnail. And on this chip resides all of the wonder and magic that makes this thing go. I'm not going to describe in any mathematical detail how it all works, but let me give you an analogy. In quantum mechanics, there's this concept that a thing can exist in two states which are mutually exclusive at the same time, quote unquote. And I'm using those words because the English language was developed before we had concepts to describe what these things actually are doing. But I'm going to give you a roundabout way of understanding this. Imagine that there really are parallel universes out there, and now imagine you have two that are exactly identical in every respect, all the way out to the horizon as far as we can see, down to the last little atomic detail of every single thing, with only one difference. And that's the value of a little thing called a qubit on this chip, which is a contraction of quantum bit. And that qubit is very much like a bit or a transistor in a conventional computer. It has two distinct physical states, which we call 0 and 1 for bit. In a conventional computer, these are mutually exclusive. That device is either one or the other and never anything else. In a quantum computer, that device can be in this strange situation where these two parallel universes have a nexus, a point in space where they overlap. And when you increase the number of these devices, every time you add one of these qubits, you double the number of these parallel universes that you have access to, until such time when you get to a chip like this, which has about 500 of these bits, you have something like 2 to the 500th power of these guys living in that chip. So the way I think about it is that the shadows of these parallel worlds overlap with ours. And if we're smart enough, we can dive into them and grab their resources and pull them back into ours to make an effect in our world. Now, this may sound very odd to you and bizarre, and in fact, I am using language that a normal theoretical physicist probably wouldn't use, but this is, what I'm telling you is absolutely correct and in line with the way that these things actually work. We've been doing this for some time now, and in fact, we have our own version of Moore's Law. The doubling of the number of these qubits on the chip has happened once a year for the past 9 years. So for the last 9 years, every year the number of these qubit devices has doubled, and it will continue to do so. I believe that humanity is on the cusp of the most important technological, societal revolution that's ever occurred. And that's when we got to the point where the machines that we build outpace us in every respect. I don't mean that they're better calculators. I don't mean that they're better at searching. I mean everything. And I think that we're very close. And my prediction is that within 15 years, we will have machines that outpace humans in everything. Thank you very much.
So that's the reality of why, we believe in Jesus and why we say and why God himself in the Bible said that he is the only way. Because really, when you think about it, the Bible is the only, I can't even think of the exact word, not archaeological, but basically ancient history text that has still been proven to be right today. When it talks about the cashless society in Revelations, when it talks about, not being able to buy or sell without, like, that's what we're heading towards. And no other book has predicted that. So that's why we believe in the Bible instead of just saying like, oh, well, no, because somebody wrote it. Like, other thousands of books and movies don't get translated, but we still believe it and still teach from it, So Ephesians 2:2 says, wherein the time past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, that the spirit now worketh in the children of disobedience. So it's basically saying like the enemy is the controller of all this technology, all the radio waves. That's all technology and artificial intelligence. All of this stuff really is. It's signals and waves that we can't see physically, but it's definitely there. That's making these things work. That's creating, simulations and alternate reality, stuff like that. So to wrap it up, like, all in all, getting a relationship with God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit in these days and age and time is what's most important, because there is an enemy of our souls, but there is also one who died to save our souls, and that's Jesus. And the last verse that I have is Ephesians 6:12. And it says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world in high places, spiritual wickedness in high places. So it just keeps going more and more in depth of all the stuff that we've already realized on this planet, that we have some corrupt people in power. It's like no way around it anymore. So yeah, there's some corrupt people in power, from them talking about a new world order back in the 80s, constantly, even admitting to, experimenting on the public people. And then they like tried to apologize for it. Like, that made it okay. Just all kinds of things that, even Billy, calling Billy G, cause, I don't want him to get fired or nothing, however that stuff worked. But even him talking about the C-19 before it even happened, like, and when you understand business, when you understand like how a person can finesse or use something to their advantage, you understand like he was basically given the blueprint on how to basically attack America. The fact that we have people that we're in debt to as a country, and them trying to save their own money, their own influence, their own power and fame, it's not far-fetched to say that they would do something like that. Like, well, if you really wanted to attack America because we're not ready for a biological weapon, you know what I mean? Like, why would you even say that? And we got enemies. Like, just all kinds of stuff that shows, that the world that we live in isn't as peachy keen as we like to make it seem. However, we're not supposed to be fearful of every single thing and scared of death and scared of, like, that's what we need Jesus for, because he gives us hope. He gives us joy, love, peace, strength, all the things that we need. And it's a lifelong process. It's an everyday process to make the conscious decision, because what they're learning through this scientific discovery and exploration is that every single decision counts toward these different parallel universes. Like, basically we have the choice to choose a better life.